Hey guys, Scripted here with another video, and I'm afraid to say, but this one might make you mad. And that's just because after this interview came out, I was on Twitter, and there was an awful lot of positivity. I sort of thought that was a little bit ill-placed. And so I'm just going to preface this by saying that I think people forget where we were a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. I think people are so starved for something good or even mediocre at this point, or even just better than what we got at this point, that they're positive about something that a lot of people surely would have been equally as negative about before the Kenobi show came out. Let's not forget that when we all heard that he was going to be fighting Vader, we had major problems with that lore-wise. We had problems with him leaving Tatooine. Many of the same people that were not happy with the direction that they went in the Kenobi show are now positive about the direction this trilogy would have gone. And so I just wanted to remind everybody of where we were so that we don't get too carried away here. And there are some positives here. I'm not saying the whole thing is negative. There are some cool ideas, but it's not a complete 180 by any means, by any stretch. And in fact, you'll see in the interview that a lot of the ideas that ended up in the show came from Stuart Beattie. So all I have to say, let's listen to this. It's not the whole thing. If you want to watch the whole interview, go to Star Wars Theory's channel. And you know what? I'll throw a link in the description too. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal, but people are always freaking out about that. It's like, dude, if you go on his channel, it's literally like the first or second video. You can just click it, but whatever, fine. It's a cool interview. I just picked out some stuff from it, and we're not going to go through the whole thing. It's like a 40-minute interview or whatever, but I did want to address some of these things, and sorry again ahead of time, but we'll see what happens here.
The obvious thing for me was, okay, well, they're probably going to do an Obi-Wan movie because that's the one everyone wants. So,
Right.
But I wasn't hearing anything about who was doing it and what was happening. So I just started coming up with my own ideas for it, and then went up to Lucasfilm and pitched them. And that's really what got the ball rolling, because they actually weren't planning on doing it. They were, they're busy with Rogue One and Han Solo and all these other things. So, yeah, so it was really a matter of convincing them that there was a story there worthy to tell. And they did ask me in that meeting, is it a movie or is it a show? And I just felt, no, it's a movie. It's 3 movies I had, planned for him, because I felt there were 3 different evolutions of his character.
It's interesting because he says here that they weren't planning on doing anything with Kenobi. And for a lot of us, that's actually a smart decision. We already kind of knew what he was doing. He's protecting Luke. He's living out his life, hoping maybe for an opportunity to have a relationship with Luke and potentially train Luke. But he's on Tatooine and he's there to make sure nothing happens to him. We didn't need anything else, right? A lot of us were like, yeah. And I think, and this is what's funny about this interview, is this interview actually kind of shows that Disney actually, and there's other things that are coming up as well, that Disney actually wasn't being stupid here. This was a wise thing for them to be like, no, we probably shouldn't do that. And it was Beattie that kind of got the ball rolling on them doing anything with Kenobi in the first place. So I find that very, very interesting. But again, I don't think, he says, oh, it wasn't on their radar, but it was the movie everybody wanted to see. No, we didn't. I think he did. I think a few people did. But I don't think people were clamoring for a Kenobi movie. In fact, I don't remember anyone saying anything about Obi-Wan Kenobi until they announced they were doing something with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't think everybody wanted it. I think a few people probably did. He certainly did. But again, it was like, what are you going to do? He's on Tatooine watching over Luke. Like, there's nothing there. So then you try to make something out of nothing, which is what they did, and which is what he would have done. And I don't know that it's the best idea. Let's see what he has to say here.
It's not just 19 years of a guy sitting in a desert. There's fundamentally different characters. There's Jedi Master, Clone Wars General, jump into the middle of the fray, say hello there, and get fighting, right? To, this really, reluctant, shell of a person, waiting to be called to adventure.
Yeah.
So that was always fascinating to me. I just felt that the evolution of Obi-Wan to Ben was something that was really worth exploring.
Wait. Ben was a reluctant participant waiting for something to happen? It was kind of the opposite. Obi-Wan is literally anxious to have a relationship with Luke. He wants to meet him. He wants to train him and all that stuff. So I don't see him as being reluctant. He's just told by Owen, no, you don't have access to this kid because of what happened to his dad. And like the first chance he got to interact with Luke, he did. In fact, he was following him and making sure he didn't get killed by the Sand People. And he scared them away. So I don't get this, oh, he was reluctant, didn't want to do anything. They made a decision. Yoda and him lost. They knew that they had lost. Even though Obi-Wan defeated Anakin, he had lost Anakin to the dark side. And Yoda failed to keep this empire from forming. So they decided, well, the best thing we can do is go into exile and wait and see what happens. So, but the idea that he was reluctant, I don't get that vibe at all from the original Star Wars whatsoever. And he's right there. He's willing. He's ready, and he's just waiting for his opportunity. And then when he gets his opportunity, he takes it. So I disagree entirely with that take.
And he has to have met Darth Vader in this time. And they're like, no, it's impossible. It's possible. I said, no, it's actually a fact.
Yeah.
And I can prove it. And they're like, how?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, you look at Return of the Jedi. And you look at the scene where Luke gives himself up to Vader. And he says, I still believe there's good in you, Father. And I said, and Vader replies, Obi-Wan once thought the same as you.
Yeah.
And I was like, when did that happen? Because it certainly didn't happen in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And it certainly didn't happen in A New Hope. So it must have happened in between. And they were like, oh my God, you're right. And so that's what really started the whole ball.
That was the opener.
What? Obi-Wan once thought as you do. Yeah, the entire time in the prequels. What is he talking about? He was literally training him and telling him he was the chosen one. And believing in him that he would be the one to destroy the Sith. In other words, you can't destroy the Sith if you're not on the light. If you're not good. So, what are you talking about? That's the whole prequels. Is him trying to help prepare Anakin for this prophetic thing that he's supposedly going to do. What is he talking about? And so, yeah, he always knew there was good in him. And in fact, he thought there was good in him all the way until Mustafar, until finally Anakin just was gone. And he said, fine, then I will do what I must. And this is right after he strangles Padme. So what's he supposed to do? Just sit there and tell him how great he is? He's got to fight him now. He doesn't have a choice. So again, I'm not trying to be rude here, but Stewie, like, did you watch the movies? Like, this is where I don't get it. And Theory, I think, is just sort of is happy to talk to this guy. And again, I think so starved for something better that I think he's overlooking some of the things that this guy's saying. Now, mind you, he's interviewing, he doesn't want to be a jerk, he doesn't want to, I get it. But, I mean, the idea that Obi-Wan didn't see good in Anakin is ridiculous. Of course he did. That was the whole thing. And even after he slaughtered all the Sand People, Obi-Wan still was like, no, man, you're going to be the chosen one, you keep training you, we got to do this, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't get that. Yeah, no, that's not what happened. So again, this is kind of weird. I don't know why everyone's like looking at this super positively right now. This just looks like another person who would have screwed it up to me. And then having Vader and him meet is just absolute garbage. I'm sorry, but George Lucas has made it very clear from the beginning that they don't meet until Star Wars, from the fight on Mustafar. And in fact, that was planned a long time ago. And if you go back to even some of the old magazines and visual dictionaries and things of that nature, this one, I don't remember exactly where this is from, but I know it's one of the original ones because the lightsabers aren't even colored in this one. Okay? And what does it say? The duelists. Darth Vader senses his former master's presence on the Death Star and intercepts Kenobi. They duel with lightsabers, and Vader is confident that he will be the victor, asserting that the roles have been reversed since their last fateful encounter on Mustafar, and that now he is the master as their battle brings them to the corridor outside the docking bay. The Sith Lord does his best to wear down the aged Jedi, and when Ben appears to surrender, Vader does not hesitate to strike. But, surprise, the red blade of his Sith saber connects only with his opponent's empty robes, leaving him to wonder if Obi-Wan will somehow become even more powerful. Mustafar was the last time that they dueled. And I don't know why Theory would overlook that. I don't know why everyone is now overlooking this. All of us were like, "What are they doing?" When they showed they were going to do this, when the show previews and trailers and stuff came out, we were all like, "What? This breaks canon. This is not what happened. This wrecks lines of dialogue." It was the same way that you know, there's no way he would have ever known Leia either, right? And we were mad about that because it was like, well, she literally says, "You fought with my father in the Clone Wars so that he can identify who she is." If she had met him, she would say, "Hey, look, it's me, Leia." So now we're just going to overlook this stuff because we're so desperate for something good, but then this wouldn't even be good. It would just be basically the same. And again, this is what this guy's script is what inspired the show. So how he got that out of the prequels, I will never know. That is made up. And again, George made it very clear. The old books and leaflets and encyclopedias, everything else, all say that. There's a big problem here. And I have another resource I'll read to you later that will confirm this further for you. That the intention was always that they hadn't seen each other in years. And also keep in mind too, like the weight of the scene is so much bigger when you know they haven't seen each other. And Vader had no idea where he was. It just, the weight of it is so much stronger than, "Oh yeah, we've seen each other a bunch of times, bro. Hey, what's up, man?" Like, and I don't know how people don't see that. You're reducing the impact of the original Star Wars movie for the sake of just having some show or some movie that is totally unnecessary for the plot. Because ultimately, no matter what happens between them in this interim period, they end up in the same place anyway. So why would you add a bunch of stuff that just makes that duel less impactful? I don't get that, but whatever. But again, he's the guy who brought this to their attention for them to make the show. So there's problems.
Yeah. So look, my pitch to them was, it all came from character, right? So, what's Obi-Wan feeling at the end of Revenge of the Sith? What's the primary feel? And I think I felt the feeling is guilt. Guilt. I've just killed my brother. Guilt. I'm responsible for unleashing this hell on the galaxy. It's my fault. I trained the guy. So it's guilt. But I've got this secret weapon. I've got this baby. This is the new hope. Yeah, and this baby can make everything right. This baby can fix everything I've messed up.
No, see, he thinks it's all about like Obi-Wan being like a self-centered guy. Obi-Wan doesn't look like he's guilty at all at the end of Revenge of the Sith. He tells him that, "Anakin, you've done this to yourself." He's very clear about the fact that Anakin went nuts. He didn't blame himself at all. And then the fact that he's going to use this baby to atone for his supposed guilt? Does that sound very Jedi-like to you? Just some selfish thing to make himself feel better? He's going to, like, get a hold of this kid? No! He's very clear in Revenge of the Sith, "Bro, you went nuts. I have to do what I have to do. You decided to do this. You put this on yourself. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them." He's yelling at him. It doesn't look like a guilt situation to me, and it certainly doesn't look like a guilt situation in the original Star Wars either. The way he talks about it very plainly, that Darth Vader seduced and killed his father. He doesn't say it with an inch of guilt. He's clearly blaming Anakin for it, even then. I don't understand how you can, like, this is just a made up thing to be able to say, "Let's make a show," or "Let's make a movie." None of that is in there. And guys, again, if I know everyone was super positive about this interview, but just stop and really think critically. Look at what he's saying and how those movies were actually made. There's no guilt there. You have to make that up to create this story that doesn't need to be there, and then it just makes Obi-Wan look like a donkey because he's using this kid so he doesn't have to feel bad. Like, I'm sorry, but that sucks.
And I'm going to watch over this kid. And, because he is, the new hope. He is everything. It's the only way this gets fixed.
Right.
So he moved in with the Lars, and he was just making sure nothing bad happened to the kid. And as per the Jedi training, at 4 years old, the deal is I take him. You've done the diaper things. He's out of diapers. He can feed, and I can talk to him. I'll take him at 4. You'll never see us again. And we'll go off, and I'll train him. He'll become the greatest Jedi Knight, son of Anakin Skywalker, and we'll fix everything. We'll take down the Emperor, Darth, everyone.
Yeah.
Absolve me of my guilt.
Yes.
Fucked up plan, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But that's his plan. So in my film, Luke is 4, and he's like right on the edge of almost there. Obi-Wan's about to take him away. And the main problem for Obi-Wan at the beginning is he's lost his connection to the Force, and he doesn't know why. So.
Yeah.
When we first met him, he's just trying to, pick up his lightsaber from across the room, and it won't work.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting way to just, take away Superman's powers, right? He's a Jedi. What is a Jedi without their connection to the Force?
Right.
So basically, to create a storyline, you just say he lost his connection to the Force, but there's no explanation as to why. That is ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, even Ruin Johnson had the wherewithal to say that Luke himself cut himself off. He just stopped using it and stopped interacting with it and just stopped meditating and everything altogether, and therefore was weakened. Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't lose his connection to the Force. He's been on Tatooine for like 20 years, and then when he finally gets his opportunity with Luke, he uses the Force right away. He uses it on the stormtroopers, like on Mos Eisley. I don't get where you get these vibes. But again, he has to make that up so that there's some issue with Kenobi. So he has to make up this thing that Kenobi feels all this guilt and just wants to use this baby to feel better. And even admits, what a messed up plan. Well, why would Obi-Wan have a plan like that? That's ridiculous. Obi-Wan honored Owen and didn't go after Luke. And again, I have a resource that'll confirm all this for you. He didn't go after Luke because that's not the Jedi way. You don't just abduct a kid. If his uncle, who is his caretaker, says leave him alone, then he leaves him alone. He doesn't concoct some plan to take him away when he's 4 years old. Like, that's not what Owen wanted. It's just making up a problem that doesn't need to be there. And I've never really liked the idea of this sort of like cutting yourself off from the Force or whatever. Or I'm cut off from the Force. But at least in the case of Luke, he did it purposefully. It didn't just happen like this, right? Like, this is pretty stupid, guys. Like, I'm sorry, Stewie, but I mean, no.
So a big part of the journey for him in my film, in that first film, was finding his connection back to the Force, figuring out why he's lost it and what he has to do to get it back. Mm-hmm. And the answer to that was, you have to let go. You have to surrender to the will of the Force. You're trying to force the will of the Force,
yes, right,
with your crazy plan. You've got to step back, and you've got to let things be, and you've got to let the Force come to you. And so, because I always figured the hardest thing for a general to do is surrender, right? It's the hardest thing to do, and that's what he's got to learn to do. He's got to surrender to the will of the Force.
Okay. I mean, yes and no. It's a balance between, yes, surrendering, but at the same time, you're an active user of the Force. Like, when Yoda was training Luke, for example, yes, he was training him to let go, to believe, all those things, but he still actively lifted an X-Wing out of the swamp to show him what can be done. He didn't just stand there. So I think we're getting a little bit in the weeds when it's like, oh, just let go, let the Force do everything. It's kind of like how they did it in the sequels, right? Where darkness rises and light to meet it. The Force just made Rey and made her so powerful just so there could be a yin and a yang. And that's not balance. George said so multiple times. 2010 is a good interview if you want to look that up. If that's the case, it's completely pointless. Because if the Force just wants light and dark to just be fighting, there's no point in the Star War. Nobody wins. It's just dumb. Because there's always going to be a light or a dark coming back now to meet it. And so this whole idea that like you just sort of sit back and allow everything to happen is not right either. To an extent, yes, you have to release your own wants and desires, right? That's so you don't go to the dark side like Anakin did, but you also don't just sort of sit around and wait for the Force to do all the work for you. So, and again, you know, it's just a made up thing that Obi-Wan just didn't have the Force anymore, and he didn't know why, and then he realized you had to let go. Let go of what? Let go of what? This stupid made up plan that he's gonna train Luke. And why is that? Why is training Luke a stupid plan? That was his plan all along. It's just that Owen didn't allow it, and so he just watched over him and in that case waited on the Force to give him the opportunity to have access to Luke, right? In the sense that, you know, once Owen and Beru were gone, he had access to Luke. I don't get this, that like this was such a horrible plan, but then at the same time, that's literally what the plan was in the originals, except he wasn't allowed, and because Jedi are honest and have integrity, he wasn't going to just swoop in and grab Luke from Owen, because no, the Jedi don't kidnap kids. Yeah, it's very convoluted.
You know, my story was all about his discovery of what he's doing is wrong, and realizing it's wrong, and then learning I've got to do something else, you know, and that was done to him. He ended up, well, it'll get complex, but yeah, the idea was
get complex, man. I could take it. Get complex.
Well, when he, yeah, just to quickly fill in the gaps, what changes everything, the inciting incident of the movie was the Empire arriving on Tatooine.
Yeah,
Empire has been spreading.
Yeah,
you know, and it's only 4 years into the Empire, right?
Yeah.
So finally reached Tatooine.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Empire's here, Luke's full, we gotta go.
Yeah.
And so Cody, I you know, I'd left the story of how they reconnected to someone else to do, you know, in a comic or something like that. So the idea was Cody's taking the chip out, and Cody is now, oh my God, guilt as well, right? I'm so sorry for trying to kill you. I am here, ride or die for you. I will do anything you want. So Cody is like his eyes and ears on the ground in Mos Eisley. And so Cody contacts him, says, hey, the Empire's here. We got to get out. And then, of course, they've got a plan to get out.
Okay, so this aspect of it I actually don't mind. I actually like the Cody thing. I like that he's watching over Luke and the Empire's reached there now 4 years later. I like that. This part of it's cool. And again, if they kept it on Tatooine and kept Obi-Wan watching over him, but added this aspect in, that's fine with me. I like this, actually. But what I don't like is it's like, oh, the Empire's here, we're going to leave the planet. Why? Why? If you have Cody as an eyes and ears on the ground, and you don't want to get found if you're Obi-Wan Kenobi, then just have that. Like, he's there, he's on the ground, he can help to protect you and, by extension, Luke. Why do you have to leave the planet just because the Empire showed up? In the originals, there's stormtroopers all over Tatooine, and Kenobi's living there. And so is Luke. So what, like, why would this be an issue? Like, see, we're just making up problems that aren't really justifiable to create a story. And again, I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I understand the intentions are good. And what's funny is Stewart actually at the end of the interview, I don't have it on this because you have to go check it out on Star Wars Theories channel, but he actually says the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And these intentions I think are really good, but these are pretty nonsensical plot points that would just create problems.
So anyway, when Obi-Wan eventually leaves Tatooine, everything goes wrong, and he ends up not where he's supposed to be. He ends up on this massive kind of space station, which is like a transportation hub. So, the only space station we've already seen in Star Wars really is the Death Star, right? So just, okay, well, what's a transportation hub look like? People from all over the galaxy coming and going. And so he falls in with this group of refugees there called the Karoo. And they're being kept there by this corrupt administrator of the station. And so he falls in with them, and they need his help, basically. But they have their own connection to the Force. which they call something else completely. But we know what it really is. It's the Force,
Yeah,
but
right.
so they kind of teach him, you're trying to force your will onto this kid and it's going to end badly. And we see flashes of that on Tatooine before he leaves. We see flashes of darkness in Luke when Obi-Wan's trying to get him to kind of, come on, Luke, use the Force, you saw little flashes of darkness.
No, really? How? Like what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like how are you going to portray that?
Well, there was like,
Okay, guys, like this is. And again, I think theories being played. I think if he actually stopped and thought about this for a longer period of time, he would not be pleased. So essentially, Obi-Wan leaves Tatooine for really no reason, because again, he's there in the original Star Wars with the Empire having been there for quite a while. So I don't understand why he would just have to flee for no reason, especially with again, his spy is down in Mos Eisley and keeping track of what's going on. So it just doesn't make any sense. And then it's the terminal. So he goes to some transportation hub, and there's a bunch of people stuck there, like Tom Hanks in the terminal, and the administrator won't let them leave. I mean, the terminal's a great movie, but that's essentially what this is. Like they're refugees or whatever, kind of like he was, but he doesn't have a country, so he can't get into the U.S. And so like is that essentially what it is? And then again, like another Force using group. It's like the witches in Acolyte. Too many. We're starting to add way too many groups of people that have connections with the Force. The original Star Wars movies were super interesting because the Force users were so few and far between. It's a dying religion. You're the last of its kind, right? Tarkin to Vader. Yoda was alive, but he was just in exile, and he's over here. And then Luke's sort of the last hope, and there's like a handful of dudes, 3 dudes in the whole galaxy that know how to use the Force. That's what made it interesting. Now in the prequels, you had to kind of show the fall and Order 66, all that stuff, of course. So you do have a whole bunch of them there, but we saw the fall, so that was interesting. But now with Clone Wars and with Disney Star Wars, we're just like adding all these sects of people that just use the Force. It's boring. It's boring. It's too many. I don't want everyone knowing the Force. I don't want 50 million different tribes all over the galaxy knowing the Force. It being rare is what makes it cool. Right? So it's lame when all these other people know how to use it. And then as far as the Luke dark side stuff, why would that be? What would be the point of that? What would be the point of that? When you see Luke in Star Wars for the first time, he's this naive teenager who's got personal aspirations. He doesn't have anger issues. He's just like a regular teenager. And the idea that when he's 4 years old, he's tapping into the dark side with Obi-Wan training him as a kid. Isn't that the whole point? That if they're too old, they're more susceptible to falling. And so they like to train them from when they're 4 years old because they're completely impressionable and completely innocent. Right? A 4-year-old doesn't understand right and wrong the way an 18-year-old does. Right? They're 4. So if he's in the hands of a positive guy like Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's his influence, and his uncle and aunt who love him are his influence, and he's 4, there's no way he would get angry and tap into the dark side when he's being trained. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I think the only reason he wants to do that is because, remember Anakin got mad? Oh, the Skywalkers, they tap into the dark side and they get mad. The only time you saw Luke ever hint at it was when he chopped off Vader's hand. And then as soon as he did it, he's like, oh, shoot, what am I doing? That was dumb. But that was a grown adult who's in a situation where he's got 2 of the most evil dudes surrounding him. They're pounding him in his mind. He's in a physical fight. It's a scenario where it's believable that he would get a little ticked off and maybe be very tempted to go to that side. But a 4-year-old in the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Owen and Beru? What? That's dumb. That's super stupid.
there was a ball, a very simple thing, right? 4-year-old playing a ball, rolling a ball back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan held and would say, take it. And Luke would come up, start walking. He's like, no, stay there. Take the ball.
Yeah.
And Luke would be reaching, take the ball, take the ball, take the ball, Luke. And, and then the ball just flies out, all of a sudden goes haywire all over the place. And it's like, whoa, what the hell was that? But like this real flash of like, whoa, and this little look in this kid that's angry,
Oh my
So
God.
That is so. I'm not going to describe it again. That's super stupid. I could see the ball kind of going everywhere. Like, in other words, like he's new, right? So he's not well versed enough to like pick it up and float it all nice like, and so he kind of just accidentally just flings it and it bounces around or something like that. But the idea that he's doing that out of anger is totally ridiculous. Again, like, what is happening here? The other thing about this is that is also being overlooked here, I think, and is pretty stupid, is if Luke trained with Obi-Wan as a little kid, how come he has absolutely no concept of Jedi in A New Hope? He has no idea what went on. He has no idea what a lightsaber is. He has no idea about any of it. His goal in life at the time is to literally become a pilot in the Empire. The Jedi are nothing to him at this point. So how would Stewart not see that would contradict A New Hope? How could you possibly do the mental gymnastics to make that work? Where he's completely oblivious, meanwhile he's done training as a kid and has memories of that with Obi-Wan. That doesn't make sense. Again, this is the foundation for the nonsensical Obi-Wan that we got.
Yeah, so the idea was, and Obi-Wan, other things happened, and so he forgot about that. But yeah, he gets reminded of that while he's with the crew, and he actually they take him to a place in their starship where they connect most powerfully with the Force, and he has this vision, and in the vision he's on Mustafar, and he sees, the dark figure in the cloak with the red lightsaber, and it's Anakin. I was like, oh my God, I'm here fighting Anakin. And they come together, and the guy pulls off his hood. It's not Anakin. It's Mark Hamill at 19, and it's holy shit. And Luke's turned to the dark side, and he's got to fight Luke in the dark side. And getting out of that is what makes him realize, holy shit, this is the path we're going down. I'm going to turn this kid into a Sith if I keep this up. And so I've got to get out of here, B, get back to Tatooine, C, secure him from Darth Vader and Reva, make them think I'm dead, all this kind of stuff. And it led to this really great third act where...
Why would he need to do that? Just because? Just because the Force decided that Luke couldn't be trained till he was 17? Because as he said earlier, right, his plan went against the Force's plan? These aren't just like passive dudes just sitting around doing nothing. If he's a good man and he's training Luke in the light side of the Force, Luke will not become a Sith. It's not like Obi-Wan was seeing visions of Vader Anakin when he was training Anakin. It happened because Anakin went nuts. But Obi-Wan was a good man. It wasn't his fault. And he didn't have guilt about it. So... why would he see a vision of a dark side Luke? See, I think he's just like, when he's talking about, he takes the hood off and it's 19-year-old Mark Hamill. Again, it's just a visual. It's like, this is what Disney does. And again, Stuart, no offense, but you're writing a story based on trying to get visuals. This huge transportation hub, just imagine, it'd be amazing. Evil Luke and he's going to fight him. Oh, the visual. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because Obi-Wan's a good man and he's training him. So, why would he get angry and go to the dark side? Anakin was manipulated by a, crazy Sith Lord. Luke is protected and isn't anywhere near a Sith Lord and is with Obi-Wan. So why would there be any risk of him going to the dark side? At all. Unless he just did it himself. So the vision is saying... Obi-Wan, what you're doing is wrong, but he's not doing anything wrong. Obi-Wan never saw a vision in the prequels because Obi-Wan wasn't at fault. The Force didn't need to tell him anything about what was going to happen with Anakin because he was doing the right thing. Anakin just went nuts. Oh, this would have sucked. Sorry, guys, this would have sucked. I'm sorry.
Surrendering to this all was what allowed him to kind of reconnect to the Force in this great kind of Superman 2 moment,
Yeah.
then Superman 2 when he crushes Zod's hand and,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
gets his powers back because he has learned to surrender. And that's what allows him to escape and get away at the end of the day. And the big thing with Reva was she was the one that ends up going back to Vader and saying, Kenobi's dead, I killed him. And in a fit of rage, Vader kills Reva. But she dies securing Kenobi's secret that he's still alive.
Again, I don't know why they needed the whole transportation hub thing. Again, it's just a strange way of him dealing with whatever visions and stuff that he was seeing. You gotta flee the planet to go to the transportation hub, and then you're stuck in the terminal, and you help the Kuthis or whatever who know the Force for some reason, and they're in a terminal, and then you've helped free them, and then you go back to Tatooine. Knowing now that your whole thing you're supposed to do was do nothing. What? Like... This is super confusing. But and then Reva's in it? Really? And then Reva tells... See, Reva was his idea, folks. I'm just saying. And then Reva tells Vader that he's dead, even though he isn't. Why would she do that? What, to try to impress him? I don't get it. I don't get the whole let's flee the planet because there's stormtroopers around. And it's like this whole big plot for no reason. That's not good writing, guys. It's not. Like, he just made up the idea that he had to leave even though he didn't, so that he could have this storyline in a second movie that's totally unnecessary. I'm sorry, guys. I know everybody's positive about this, but this is just the same crap we got. And why would Kenobi get his powers back? Because he... It's just... that's not how the Force works. You don't gain and lose your powers by, like, doing things or not doing things. In terms of, like, going to different places or not talking to Luke or, like, that's not how it works.
And that's what allows Vader to kind of let Kenobi go, because when we see him in New Hope, he's let that go. It's not till he gets that feeling. He's like, hang on, what's that? It's something I haven't felt since, it's like, hang on, so it's the idea that, he also needs to, let go. And at the beginning of my film, he is absolutely crazy obsessed with finding and hunting and killing Kenobi. That's all he cares about. And the Emperor's railing on him like, you got to let the shit go, man. That's Anakin. You're Vader now. And he's like, I'll let him go when he's dead. So the whole thing for him was the hunt. And we had this really great opening sequence where Vader took on 5 Jedis at once and just slaughtered them all. And it's like, because I figured Vader's like 26, height of his powers. And it was just an awesome sequence where he was taking on these 5 Jedi at once.
You can't do that. You can't do that. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. There's guys who are in the film industry that talk about one guy taking on that many guys in a sword fight and how it just doesn't work, because at some point there has to be openings when it's a 5-on-1. Either there's openings for them to hit him and they don't, or they're just off on the side watching and not doing anything, which is equally as stupid. It works in a movie like Drunken Master, or ones like that with Jackie Chan, where it's kung fu and he's using the objects around him and all that stuff, and it's a comedy. It's supposed to be funny. So you can overlook some of the situations where he could have maybe gotten hit and didn't, because it's supposed to be funny. In a sword fight, you can't. That's what made the Acolyte so stupid. Like, when I reviewed it, you see the one scene where he's fighting all the Jedi, and how many times the Jedi just leave. Like, Soul just leaves for no reason. The one guy with the yellow saber's fighting him, and then he just goes away. You literally see him exit stage left for like 5-10 seconds, so that he only has to fight the other guy. And then the guy all of a sudden just comes back in after he kills the other guy. And you're like, and that's the only way you can do it. So that isn't a good idea. It's not. I know everyone's like, oh, that'd be so cool. He's fighting all these guys. No, it's not. As far as the Obi-Wan obsession and all that stuff, there is old source material and stuff that does talk about that. And it does talk about how he did really want to kill Obi-Wan, but he also just wanted to kill all the Jedi. Palpatine told him, go around killing all the Jedi. And originally he had a group of commanders and stormtroopers with him doing that. And that's in some of the old comic books and stuff that are no longer canon. And now it's Inquisitors, which are like fake Sith, or like they're non-Sith, even though they do everything Sith do, and dress up in fake loser Vader-esque costumes. So whatever, so they changed that. So Rava's going to be in there too, yay.
And you got to see how just truly terrifying this villain is. And that's what's, and then of course you cut to Kenobi, and Kenobi has no powers. And you're like, oh man, Kenobi's screwed. You know, he is screwed. So
it's almost like an Ivan Drago and Rocky sort of moment where it's
exactly. If Rocky, you know, had lost his fists,
you know,
it's just, how is he ever going to win? And so it just set up this really great confrontation that ended up happening on that space station. And that space station, there's a bunch of stuff that happens, but basically that space station was falling apart and everyone was fleeing off it. And so it was just, that fight happened on a space station that was falling into a gas giant planet. And, you know, they were the last two on the station fighting it out, basically. And
so there's the concept of time there too, where it's impending doom almost.
Yeah, for both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the visual, right? He's writing based on, I want to have this visual of this space station. And, okay, if Obi-Wan has no powers, how would he possibly get out of there alive? That doesn't make any sense. So Vader lets him live? That does not make sense. This is why you don't have them fighting. It's stupid. They wouldn't let them live. Neither of them would. That's why you don't do this. This is why you go back to the original source material and the encyclopedia I'll read to you in a minute. They did not fight in between Mustafar and Star Wars, the original. They don't fight. It's such a dumb idea. It just creates nothing but dumbness and problems.
And it really got to a point where Vader won that battle, you know? And that was the point, you know, because I that's the other thing I didn't buy about the show, was that Kenobi would defeat Vader and leave him alive.
Yeah.
No. So it was, no, Kenobi lost. He had no force powers, you know.
Oh, but Vader's gonna leave him alive? He just talked out of both sides of his mouth. He said that's what made the show stupid, that Obi-Wan left Vader alive. But then Vader would leave Obi-Wan alive? That's even dumber. That's even dumber. Because he's a Sith. He's a Darksider. I hate you. Like, what are you talking about? This is why you don't do the show, because these ideas are stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And Vader does leave Kenobi alive in the first little battle they have in the stupid show. Oh no, there's fire there. I'm just gonna stand here. The show's ideas stem from this guy's ideas. And they don't make sense, because Vader does do that. He lets Kenobi live, and that stupid loader droid comes and picks him up, even though Vader could easily he just lifted him up in the Force and threw him in the fire, and then just stood there while this loader droid took him away. He had like 20 stormtroopers. What are you doing? Walk around the fire, which is only like 20 feet wide, and go and no, I'm just going to stand here. So it's stupid no matter what you do. Because neither one of them would have left either one of them alive. So you don't have a battle until A New Hope. This is stupid.
Vader beat him. But they had that pivotal moment of Kenobi saying, stop this, Anakin, slashed the helmet open, saw the eyes, said, I know it's you. I know you're in there. Stop this. I believe there's still good on you. Padme said it. I believe it. It's just, and that was, again, the whole point of it, was to get to that moment.
No, you didn't need that moment. You didn't need that moment. He always thought there was good in him. Like, and he's going back to his original premise that, oh, well, there was no time when Obi-Wan, thought there was good in Anakin. It's like the entire prequels until the very end. What were you watching, Stewie? Come on. That's just stupid. You don't need that. And then the cut-up helmet. It's always the visual, right? Stories around a visual. We want a visual of 50 million ships coming out of hyperspace. Yeah, but if we do that, how did Lando gather all those people in only 15 hours? Don't think about it. He just did it. He flew around the entire galaxy in 15 hours and recruited everybody in 15 hours. Just shut up. We want the visual. We want the visual of Anakin with his helmet cut, which we've already seen in Rebels anyway. But we have to do that because it looks cool if it's Obi-Wan that looks him in the eye. So we're going to have this fight that makes no sense. The Vader lets him live. It's just... And again, so many of you guys were so positive. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, man. I really am. But come on, think about it. It's the same stupid thing we already saw on TV. It's stupid.
Where Kenobi showed that he still believed in Anakin, despite everything, still believed in Anakin. And it was really that moment when then Anakin said, nah, there's no Anakin here. I'm just Darth. That's what made the switch in Kenobi's head. Anakin is dead. I did kill him. And this new guy, well, I didn't kill him. Darth Vader killed him, basically, which is, of course, what he tells Luke. Because I believe he believed that.
Well, that's what happened. You're contradicting now. He didn't have guilt because he did believe that Anakin turned himself into Darth Vader and he had nothing to do with it. And he didn't need to say that to him. He didn't need closure. He knew he was evil. And he walked away while he was burning and took his lightsaber. What are you talking about? We don't need any of this. It's totally pointless. And then he tells him in Star Wars, only a master of evil, Darth. He's always seen him as a master of evil. That's why he was protecting Luke. He only saw good in him up until the point where he went mental and strangled Padme, and then he said, enough is enough. This guy went nuts. He taught Anakin that he was the chosen one that would destroy the Sith. Anakin went mental, and he was forced to fight him. He saw good in him the whole time until the last few days of the prequels. This whole timeline with Obi-Wan and Anakin is pointless. If he stays on Tatooine and you've got some Commander Cody stuff and Luke, maybe runs into some trouble with some bandits or something and he has to help him, whatever, fine. There's not a whole lot there, but you know what? When you're talking about Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan on Tatooine, you could probably still get ratings and still have a show. Maybe have a couple discussions with him and Owen and whatever. But this is why you don't do this show. It's totally unnecessary and pointless.
But when Solo didn't perform as they were hoping it would, they thought, all right, that's it. No more films showing characters that are going to survive because they're in later movies. That's what they felt like. Audiences don't care. They don't care to show up, and so unfortunately we got kind of painted with that brush. And just, it killed it. So the director left, and the whole thing got shut down, and then it wasn't until like a year or so later that they were like, hey, let's do it as a show. And so they pulled out my script and then, hired some people to turn that into a 6-episode show. Yeah, but I wasn't involved by that stage. I was doing other things.
See, and there you go. So he's telling you guys that this show was based on his scripts, which it is. Yeah, it's a little different. But it's basically the same stuff that creates problems in the show creates problems in his movies, or vice versa. There's more cringe in the show. There's more cringy crap with Reva, and of course they added Leia, which made it even worse. But it's still the base major lore issues are still there, and they adopted them from his script. I mean, sorry, but that's the way it is. I don't know why everyone's so excited about this. Like, this would have been amazing. No, it would have been just as stupid. Maybe not just as stupid, like I said, without the Reva crap and the Leia crap, but equally terrible when it comes to the lore.
I think Quinlan Vos is a fantastic story.
Yeah.
The guy who kind of really skirts the dark and the light more than anyone else. I think.
Because they put him in the show. So was he in your movie too?
Nope. Stayed away from him. Because I think they were doing Dark Disciple at the time. I'm not sure, but if you do Quinlan, you got to do Asajj, and so it's a whole.
That's another than Dooku and all.
Another whole thing. Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, you can't really skirt the line, though, right? You can only skirt it for so long, right? Eventually, you'll fall to the dark side in the end, regardless. Just like Dooku did, and just like Yoda told Luke would happen. Why do all these people feel the need to make something so simple complicated? Because they're trying to come up with ideas and they can't come up with any. I don't know why they can't write something within the simplicity of the universe that's interesting. I don't know why they can't do that. It's not that hard. It's like they just have to change things, change lore, change everything we always knew to be able to write, quote, compelling stories. I don't get it. I don't get why they have to do that, but I put this guy in the same league as all these other writers for Disney Star Wars that feel like they have to change really basic, simple things that we've always known and loved so they can come up with a story. Ultimately, I find that kind of lazy.
Yeah, and I thought there was a moment in the Kenobi show where I was like, you just don't get the world. And it was that moment where they were interrogating Leia and they're like, where are the rebels? Where are the rebels? And I was like, how could she not say Dantooine?
Yeah.
How could she not say that?
Yeah.
Like and you realize, that's her go-to thing. She's been telling the Empire this for 20 years.
Yeah.
That the rebels are on Dantooine.
Yeah.
Which would have been great.
No. 100% no. Why would that have been great? She's like 10. That would have been the lamest thing ever if she said Dantooine and then said it again 8 years later to Tarkin. Do you realize, Stu, there's 8 years in between? And she's a little kid. She doesn't know details about where rebels are and stuff. I mean, guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I've ruined your day by analyzing what this script would have been. But this would have been terrible. This whole it's better than what we got. Is it? Maybe a bit. But is that where we're at now? Just anything that's even remotely better than what we got is good now and we're excited about now. This never should have been made. Disney didn't plan on making it, and I credit them for that. But then this guy somehow convinced somebody over there that they needed to do this Kenobi crap in this timeline and have him facing off against Vader, which is utterly ridiculous. So I'm gonna leave you with this. This is from the 1999 Encyclopedia, and I'm gonna read a little bit here from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi also befriended a youngster named Anakin Skywalker who was strong in the Force. Obi-Wan took on Skywalker's training himself, but through his lack of experience as a teacher and his proud refusal to seek help or advice combined with Skywalker's strong will, Kenobi failed to see how Anakin was being lured closer and closer to the dark side of the Force. When Kenobi finally realized the error of his ways and tried to turn Skywalker back to the light side, the only result was a ferocious lightsaber battle. The records are hazy, but it appears that Skywalker may have tumbled into a pit of molten lava and emerged half dead, a scarred Hulk who couldn't breathe on his own. At that point, physiologically at least, he was transformed into Darth Vader, the Dark Lord of the Sith, although that transformation was known only to a select few. Vader teamed up with self-proclaimed Emperor Palpatine to spread the new order, blah, 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 blah. Kenobi then helped to hide the twin son and daughter born of Skywalker's estranged wife. The baby girl was entrusted to Bail Organa, while the boy was given to Owen Lars and his wife Beru to raise as their nephew. Neither child was to be told of their true parentage. Kenobi, living on Tatooine not far from the Lars home, could keep track of the young Luke Skywalker. Owen foiled one early attempt by the reclusive Ben to give Luke his father's first lightsaber, even though Ben had guided Luke and his friend Windy home after they got lost in the Junland wastes. Okay, and so that would be why Luke said, "Oh, you mean old Ben Kenobi?" Because he did know who he was from this little thing they did. This is very important. For the most part, though, Kenobi stayed hidden in his modest house as the Empire sought out and destroyed most of the galaxy's remaining Jedi Knights. So it's important. This is a really important point. He wasn't just staying on Tatooine to watch over Luke. He was also staying on Tatooine to protect himself. Going off and running around and going to space stations and Inquisitor towers and running all over the place, it was a stupid thing to do at that time because the Empire was way too powerful and they would have found him. Kenobi finally had a chance to talk to Luke when he rescued the boy from the attack by Tusken Raiders in Ben's home. They watched as the blah, blah, blah. We know the rest of the story. There you go. So they do not fight in between Mustafar and A New Hope. Okay, Darth Vader. I'm not going to do too much here. There was a terrible duel that led to Skywalker's fall into the molten pit. The shell of a man emerged as Darth Vader, shattered body, blah, 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 blah. We all know that. When Kenobi learned that Vader had survived the battle, he spirited away the Darksiders' newborn twins. Vader was key in helping the self-proclaimed Emperor Palpatine hunt down and exterminate nearly all the Jedi. As the rebellion grew into a significant threat, the Emperor put Vader in charge of an Imperial task force empowered to hunt down the leaders of the Rebel Alliance. This was talking about earlier. Vader's mission became even more imperative when Rebel spies stole the plans for the Death Star battle station. Okay, so there's nothing in there. So that's the beginning of A New Hope, right? The Death Star battle station plans were stolen. So there's nothing there. He does not fight him in between Mustafar and A New Hope. This whole concept of this movie is utterly ridiculous. I want you guys to understand, too, this encyclopedia is from 1998, the year before The Phantom Menace. So that's really important to understand. And all the stuff in The Phantom Menace lines up with everything in this encyclopedia. Nothing contradicts. But now, these guys, like Stewart and the writers at Disney, want to contradict things that were firmly established. And this movie, these series of movies would have been terrible. They would have been just as bad as the Kenobi show. Not quite as bad, I guess, but pretty close to it. Again, I've already mentioned why.
It's just, I can't believe that they would take the script you had and just give us that? What is this? What the hell? It pisses me off. I don't know. As a Star Wars fan, what are they doing?
So there you go, guys. I'm not excited whatsoever about this. I don't know why everybody got all hyped up about it. I don't know why Theory got hyped up about it. I don't think he was thinking. And also, he's trying to be a nice guy. He's interviewing the guy. I'm sure some stuff he's probably thinking like, yeah, that probably wasn't the best idea. But, he's also being polite and he doesn't want to, Stewart's a good guy. I think his intentions are good. But like he even said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. He says that later in the interview. And again, feel free to check out the full thing on Star Wars Theory's channel. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this content, please like, subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.